Our guest today is Tim Cahill, the popular travel and adventure writer who lives in Livingston, Montana. Tim was one of the founding editors of Outside Magazine and has been walking and writing about the beaten and unbeaten paths made by man and beast for more than 30 years. I'm Michael Shapiro, and this is Traveler's Tales. We cornered him today in his own backyard, a little place only 3 times the size of Switzerland, Yellowstone National Park.
All right, we're on our way.
Tim is joined by his good friend and foil, the highly respected wildlife photographer, Tom Murphy.
Tom and I have traveled together in Yellowstone quite a bit, and in anything that I've written about Yellowstone that makes me sound knowledgeable and wise, I probably stole it from Tom. We were talking about 44,000 square miles. You know, is that bigger than Rhode Island? Yeah, sure it is. I mean, everything's bigger than Rhode Island, but it's bigger than 13 other states. We're in the caldera of a giant volcano that erupted cataclysmically 3 times in the past. This is the largest supervolcano on Earth, and you can expect a cataclysmic eruption here once every 600,000 years. The last one was 640,000 years ago. You do the math. Check that guy there. Check the rock on there.
When you go on these trips, it always seems like you have some purpose or mission or quest. Is that part of what makes it a good story?
Absolutely. I mean, you want to be looking for something. I can sit on a beach and drink pina coladas for about an hour and a half. I have a low threshold of boredom. Imagine, if you will, a vacation at a resort where the food was wonderful, the beach was terrific, everything was wonderful. You'd come home with no stories to tell whatsoever.
What makes a great travel story?
You know, Michael, I'll tell you, and this is travel writing's dirty little secret. Something has got to go wrong. Whoa! There has to be adversity. Some fool has to drive his car off a cliff, for instance. Quite often that fool is me. I think if you pull just a little bit more, we got it. The nightmares, the disasters, the bureaucratic snafus. Right. That's what makes a good story. And I've been lucky to be beset by disasters. No, you've heard the expression, someday we'll laugh about all this. Right. I have to wait for that day. Hey! Got 3 cars in the ditch, that's pretty good. I fell off a cliff in the Queen Charlotte Islands. I was doing something stupid. I was hiking by myself. See the scar here, right there?
Oh, yeah.
That's where I landed on my head. And I thought, you know what? I have to get up and get to the kayak camp. And I have to do it now. And I tied a bandana around my head to stop the bleeding and started moving. And there was all down timber. I had to go under it and over it, and there was this awful screaming sound all the time, and I realized it was coming from me. And I finally made it back to the camp, and it's the only place I've ever been medevac out of. It was a complete disaster. Believe it or not, big deal travel writer, goes all kinds of places. And I got a call from a television station in New York City. They said, Tim, why don't you come out here and be on a television show and tell us about how you are a big, hairy-chested, macho adventurer. And I thought, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to face my fear, and I'm going to do it on national TV. And I did. But every time they cut the commercial, I had to go and vomit into a wastebasket. Now that wasn't funny for years.
The complex produces about 2 tons of rock a day. So this complex changes. Sometimes you can notice a difference from one day to the next.
And these are what you would call the travertine formations, right?
Correct.
And doesn't it feel like it's something that you should be looking at underground?
Yeah.
It's Mother Earth in her underwear, and you should feel guilty looking at this. And this is just one of the 10,000 thermal features in Yellowstone Park, and that's why we made it a national park in 1872. People didn't believe such things existed. I think it was a Folsom Cook party came through, and they tried to write up their diaries. They sent it into Harper's and the New York Herald. And
they didn't publish fiction.
Yeah. Eventually, when the Hayden party came in, and they brought back the reports of this, people said, my God, it actually exists. It's not some fantasy of mountain men. I don't think we're going to make it now. We're going to try to get to the hot pots before they close, but they close at sunset. The boiling river.
Freezing air.
You'll see why. The average temperature of the water here in the summer is 41 to 42 degrees.
Okay.
In fact, the most common cause of death in Yellowstone is people falling in the water a distance from shore.
You guys leaving? You can see the water flowing. So the falls are still flowing, but casually you just see a wall of ice.
Yeah. There used to be around here and in the Lamar Valley probably a bigger concentration of coyotes than anywhere else on Earth. And when the wolves were reintroduced, the coyotes would challenge them for the kills and lost every single fight.
Right.
Now they wait for the wolves to abandon the kill, and often the coyotes sneak in while the wolves are sleeping off their meal, and the biologists call it meat drunk. I guessed it was an elk carcass. What do you think?
It's an elk. I looked at it with binoculars. Yeah. What happens is these wolves, they just lock on them, and just like a little heat-seeking missile, they just go right after that one. They're nervous because they're stealing somebody else's dinner. The wolf will come back in time. 3 days, it'll just be white.
Can you tell me what some of the more frightening things that you've ingested are?
In the acacia trees in Tanzania, they have these worms. Local barrel bag people take their pangas, their machetes, to the tree. And then they put them on a stick, live, the poor guys, and then you eat these wormy creatures. One has to eat them.
One does not have to eat them. Maybe
Well,
if you
you're
go to
sitting-
places where he goes, one has to, but...
You're not going to turn down what they consider to be a great treat.
So they're honoring you by giving...
And then you can learn certain kinds of things.
It's a dream life for a lot of people to go to these remote places, to be out here.
And eat worms.
And eat worms.
What is that grunting? Is that the elk?
Those are bison. That's a bison. They sound like a pig. 1,000-pound pig. Actually, there's no such thing as a buffalo in North America. Never has been. These are bison.
What are the warning signs of a bison that's getting ready to...
One of the warning signs is the ruff on the back of the neck comes up. When the tail comes up, it means charge or discharge.
Either way, you want to get out of the way.
Yeah, that's right.
Good idea.
You say they can outrun a quarter horse for a quarter mile?
They can.
It's astounding. Pretty cool here in the winter. I mean, you
Isn't
see
it?
some
Yeah.
stuff that you never really imagined seeing.
They say there's 2 seasons in Yellowstone, August and winter. As the winter progresses, the snow drifts in curious ways, in different ways, and each snowfall is different, and so every time you see it, it's different. Nobody will ever see it that way.
It's so quiet, pretty soon you hear these snowflakes falling by your head.
I kind of dreamed of doing a job like this, traveling around the world, meeting people of different cultures and trying to understand those cultures. And I go out and I do those things. And people can look at me and say, this guy is not Superman. I think they say, if this clown can do it, so can I. And so a lot of what I do, I think, is giving people back their dreams.